Don't be afraid to speak when you get to that table. And that's what I try to get our new AAHomecare members to see, is that if you come to the table, there's 6 other people that are having the same problem that you are. And if we could talk about it as a group and come to a solution, we can really make positive changes.
What exactly does AAHomecare do for DME providers?
AAHomecare represents associates, providers, and manufacturers in this space. So we deal with legislative issues, regulatory issues, pay relations issues, and we also provide a networking space.
The reimbursement and regulatory landscape has really never been simple. Was there like one policy fight that really kind of tested you?
The thing that really got me going the most was the blanket orders for CPAP supplies. The only thing other than competitive bidding that's really, really near and dear to my heart is getting as many co-sponsors as possible for HR 2005, because Congress works for you. And that's one thing that I've learned the most since I've worked for AAHomecare is you get scared to talk to them and ask them for things, but technically they're there to serve you and to hear your story.
We are live on the Claim to Fame podcast. Today we have Stephanie Legree from AAHomecare. Thanks for joining today, Stephanie.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yep. Welcome to the podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, well, today's guest has lived and breathed in the DME industry her entire life, starting in billing and shaping national advocacy efforts. She's now helping providers across the country have a stronger voice in Washington and beyond. Stephanie, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and AAHomecare for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, for sure. So I have definitely grown up within the industry. My family owns Benson's Home Healthcare, which is a large regional provider in Michigan, Indiana, and Florida. And they have been in business since 1953. So I've been in the industry pretty much since I was in diapers. I'm pretty sure some of our employees like to bring up the fact that I wore a bonnet when I came into the office when I was little. So lived and breathed the industry for a long time. And then about a year and a half ago, I made the jump over to AAHomecare, which has been really, really exciting for me. I worked with them as being an AAHomecare member for Benson's and just wanted to be able to do more, so I made the jump, and it's been a great ride ever since.
Awesome. It's incredible. It's a recurring theme of family businesses in DME, without a doubt, for sure. So
yeah, you're not the first guest who said that they were kind of like around it as a baby and diapers and all that. It's actually,
yes.
Yeah, we've heard it a few times.
And if it wasn't a family business, it's always an interesting story. And the other part is they never leave. So
for sure. Yeah, it's definitely unique because I worked my way through the entire company. So I worked in almost every department at certain points in time. So I worked in the warehouse, the file room, customer service, rehab. I became a program manager, and then I ran customer service and finally ended up in billing. And that's where the end of my life was at Benson's, was working in billing. I tried to avoid it for as long as I could because I had heard that it's the hardest department to work in. So I was like, well, I don't want to go there. And then once I graduated from college, they're like, guess where you're going? And it really was where everything started to happen for me, was when I ended up in the business office, because I saw this whole other side of the industry that I never even knew existed, just working in my family's company. So it was really something, it was a blessing in disguise going for that challenge, and the global knowledge of the company has really helped me since I've worked for AAHomecare, because I can understand where all different levels are coming from when it comes to interacting with them. So it's really unique, and I'm super grateful to my family for letting me take this adventure and jumping to the other side of things of working for a national association.
yeah, it's a pretty cool pivot. And you've been in DME for 23 years. How did actually growing up in the industry shape the way you see healthcare in general?
Yeah, for sure. So when I first started, I think I was 12 on the books, and that was allowed because I was family, and I think I made $1.25 an hour. So it was really unique. I loved packaging orders in the warehouse. I always tried to get the most amount of orders done that I could. And it gave me a very good perspective of how the whole company works, because if there was dirt on the ground, my grandpa says, grab a broom. Like, you should never be bored. And it gives you a perspective of the whole company. And it was funny because then I transitioned to working for customer service once I graduated from high school, because I could work full time. And my dad would be the one giving the seminars about how customer service is important and our patients are different and complex. And I can remember him saying, who all knew that they would be selling commodes their whole life. And I was the only one, well, my sister and I were the only ones that raised our hands. We're like, yeah, we knew that we would be selling commodes. So it was just interesting how that came up. And in that, I ended up in rehab, which gave me a whole new perspective on patients that needed a much higher level of service than I'd ever seen before. And when it came to rehab, I really got my heart for the company. And I was really drawn to the fact that these patients were waiting so long for their products. And the file cabinets, I can remember seeing them. There were 4 in a row that were 4 drawers deep, filled with files of patients that were just waiting to move. And that made me sick to my stomach because I'm like, we have to help these patients and we have to help them quicker. And so what I had always said was, if I ever win the lottery, I'm going through the entire filing system and buying all of these patients' chairs, because that would help my family's company by getting an influx of cash. And it would also get these patients moving quicker than what the insurance company could do. And that's when it started to evolve into looking into the billing and the prior authorizations and the issues that were going in there. So in 2015, I joined the Jurisdiction B and C Council, which deal directly with the DME Max. And that got me a whole nother side of information that I didn't even know existed in regards to interacting with the payers and discussing the issues that you were having. And that's where my love for AAHomecare really started to grow, because I saw this whole different side of things. And I attended my first Washington Legislative Conference in 2016. Then I was super hooked, because I'm like, now you could talk to people in DC about the issues that my family's having and my company's having and the payers are having. So it was just, it all kind of just evolved into being this great situation for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like a nice kind of natural progression. Would you say there was a single moment where you realized it, or was it just kind of slowly segued into this government affair role, or was there like a aha moment?
So my first med trade was my big aha moment, because I was sitting in a room with a bunch of people, and it was, I believe Miriam Lieber was speaking, and the things that she was saying were just speaking directly to my heart, because it had to do with me. It wasn't about business management like my degree was in or anything like that. It had to do with family companies, DME, running these things. And so it really struck me that I'm not alone anymore, because I had felt so alone in my family's company, because I thought nobody's dealing with this stuff. You know, all my friends work for other companies that don't know anything about DME. All the local DMEs were closing with the exception of my family and a couple others. So it was like, it was so good to see that there were people around you. And that's how everything evolved. So that was my aha moment, was when I was attending MedTrade, sitting in a class, and I'm like, I'm not alone. Everybody is dealing with these same issues. And it's so great, because then it started to get to the point where we were working with the networking and everything that I used with AAHomecare for sure.
Yeah,
That's an incredible story.
Yeah, that's great, and it looks like you definitely want to help everyone, and it's not a common trait you find too much these days anymore. And actually, speaking of Miriam, she's actually scheduled to come on the show shortly as well in a few weeks too. Yeah, so we're getting everyone
I
in the DME space.
absolutely love her.
She's great.
It was funny
shout
because
out Miriam.
yeah, shout out Miriam. So
There
this
you go.
past med trade, I was going in as an AAHomecare employee, and I'm like, can we get conference passes? Because I have to see my Miriam. Like, she gives me my next dose to get through the next year of dealing with all the things that are coming in the industry. So I definitely love her and adore her, and adore what she's done in regards to customized education for our industry, you know, working through AAHomecare and MedTrade and things like that. It's really unique, and it's so good to not feel like you're alone.
Totally. And kind of going off that, the reimbursement and regulatory landscape has really never been simple. Was there like one policy fight that really kind of tested you?
So what I think that it's funny, because all the preparation that I did to do this podcast, I didn't even think about that. So that is a great question. So I will say the thing that really got me going the most was the blanket orders for CPAP supplies. When the TPE program started with Medicare, we were getting hit at Benson's because we had the orders that had multiple face masks on them. And I can remember I was actually in DC for a home care fly-in, and Dr. Brennan called me directly on my cell phone to say, hey, what's going on here? Because I hear that you're pushing back with medical review and I don't understand the issue. So can you give me the Cliff Notes version? And I was like, patients can use either mask depending on how they're feeling that week or that month. It's not necessarily a medical thing on whether you need a nasal mask or a full face mask. And so I said, it's silly to have to keep going back and forth to the doctor to get these different orders. And I would really think that it would be a lot better in the patients over paperwork thing to be able to accept these different masks, because it has nothing to do with the patient's actual care from the physician. That's the interaction between the provider, the manufacturer, and the patient. It has nothing to do with the doctor. And so I was working with one of the medical review specialists at CGS at the time, and I said, I want to get rid of this whole blanket order issue because I feel like this is something that does not make any sense. And so I told her, I said, once I get this done, I'm going to let you know. And I still have her personal email because she ended up leaving CGS. And I'm like, hey, guess what? Blanket orders got removed. You know, you're allowed to go. And so that's one thing that I feel like was my hill to die on until I realized that I'm not old enough to be retired yet. And so I'm like, all right, that's my first hill to die on then.
Check the first
was the
box.
blanket orders for CPAPs. Yeah. So, and that's what really gets me going, because wins like that are what we need to give us a hope and optimism and keep the next generation engaged in our industry, because so many people are, you know, retiring and rightfully so. They've worked their butts off and they've learned everything and they've worked the system, but now we have to get the next generation engaged and keep them optimistic that things are going to be okay and we can make these changes and keep these patients getting the services that they need. So that's what really makes me tick, is getting the next generation ready to go as everybody gets ready to retire and brags about it in every meeting.
So Stephanie, how would you recommend getting the next generation kind of into this and helping push everything forward?
A lot of the times what I say now that I work for AAHomecare is, so my job at AAHomecare is I run all of their open councils. So I run their HMERT council, I run the medical supplies council, I run the complex rehab and mobility council. And so a lot of the times what I do when we get new AAHomecare members is I explain to them that you have to have a seat at the table to make the changes that you need. And don't be afraid to speak when you get to that table. So you always get what you put in. And that's what I try to get our new AAHomecare members to see, is that if you come to the table, there's 6 other people that are having the same problem that you are. And if we could talk about it as a group and come to a solution, we can really make positive changes. So that's what I try to make it, so that people aren't too intimidated by the knowledge that people already have, because I'm ready for changes. I'm ready to evolve and I'm ready to make things differently. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be the same way. So with respect to everything that's been built before, I think it's exciting if we give the newer generation a seat at the table and hear those ideas, because there could be things that we haven't necessarily thought of before as changes, you know, like the blanket CPAP orders. Everybody was nervous and they're like, okay, we'll just get it for what we need. But I'm like, also, patients over paperwork, this is what they preach. Let's try it this way and see if we can make a change. So I try to make sure that everybody feels comfortable having a seat at a table, and you get out what you put in. So if you come to a table and you have a question, just ask. Somebody else for sure has that question.
Stephanie, for our listeners who may not fully know, what exactly does AAHomecare do for DME providers?
100%. So, and that's another funny story. So AAHomecare represents associates, providers, and manufacturers in the space. So we deal with legislative issues, regulatory issues, pay relations issues, and we also provide a networking space for our members to be able to work through things. And my favorite thing about AAHomecare is the advocacy part of things. So they work with all of our members, and whatever is needed is where we try to meet everybody. So for instance, competitive bidding right now, it's all hands on deck, full court press, working on this. Ashley, who was my trainer when I came over to AAHomecare, she and the brand council have been working on all of these different resources that people can use. And I really envy the fact that we can mobilize and meet people where they are. So AAHomecare membership is critical when it comes to being able to get a seat at the table and being a part of the differences that we're all trying to make.
For a smaller mid-sized DME, which is really the long tail of DME, you know, there's Binsons and then there's tons of these little ones, right? Even probably in your neck of woods, right? Who maybe do feel alone in some of these battles. how do they have a voice, or what can they do to play a part in this, or any, I guess, advice for them when, if they do feel alone? And I'm sure it's very common trying to navigate all these waters. You have these big players, and then the long tail DMEs are so smaller providers that might just serve a very small region, but I think there's power in numbers, right? So kind of
For
curious,
sure.
what's your thought on that?
Yeah, so I think it all starts with your state associations. Participation in your state associations is the first step, and then getting to be a home care members or something like that. We have all different levels of participation when it comes to being an AA home care member, but your state associations is where it starts, and that's where Vincent's, obviously, we worked with our state associations, and then also we're AA home care members at the same time, because the national level really ends up impacting everything below that. And like I said before, the main thing is that once you get that seat at the table, use it. Don't be afraid to ask questions and things like that, no matter if you're a small fry or a big fry. It was funny because I remember talking to Kim Brummett in the beginning when I first met her, and I was like, yeah, we're just a small company in Michigan. She's like, Stephanie, you're a large regional provider. And I was like, to me, it's just my family, and it's just a couple stores, and it's all these people that I know, these employees that I've worked with my whole life. Like, to me, my bubble was so small, but it's really not, and you can make an impact at any level, at any size, for sure.
If a provider isn't involved in a home care yet, what are they kind of like missing out on?
So the main thing that they're missing out on is a direct stream of information. So a lot of what's going on in the industry, we are able to get out to our members so quickly. We do bi-weekly email blasts, and also if something comes up, like as soon as the proposed rule comes out, we were able to mobilize and get that information out. So I think the first thing is the streamline of information, but the second thing is networking. As I worked through working with the JB and JC Council, that's how I ran into Kim, and then Kim exposed me to the Regulatory Council, which is run by AAHomecare, and I built a network of people that I worked with when it came to issues. And the best part is that it's not necessarily your direct competition when it comes to things. So I've worked with people in Indiana, North Carolina, Texas, and we start this email thread. It's called peer-to-peer questions. And I'm just like, hey, have you guys seen this yet? And then they'll respond back. And that was the best part, is because I didn't feel alone anymore, even in my own company. If somebody came to me with a question, I could network with other AA home care members and just say, peer-to-peer question, no competition, but what are you guys doing here? And how can we all work together to get through these issues? Like when it comes to ABNs or, getting assignment of benefit forms and things like that, there's so many different rules and things like that. So between meeting people at the different meetings and then being able to engage with them on a day-to-day basis, I think is critical to AA home care membership, and something that is definitely overlooked sometimes is the networking aspect of it, because you need friends.
Yep. I actually love that. We had Jim and Rose on the podcast that run the MAMES Association, and
I love Rose.
they're wonderful people. But they essentially said the same thing, and they were just talking about how amazing it is when all these providers come together. Some of them have overlap, and competition is competition, but like everybody's really fighting the same fight, and at the end of the day, just trying to help as many patients as possible the best they can. So
For sure.
it's cool to hear that reoccurring theme that we're all in the same fight and in the same business together. But the networking aspect is awesome to see. These people are best friends, but they might be fighting over a referral source here or there. But at the end of the day, the goal is the same.
Definitely, yeah. And I saw that you guys had Andrea Stark on as well, and I remember the first time I heard her speak at one of the jurisdiction city councils, I was like, I cannot believe how much information is in this woman's head, and I need to get it all out of there and into here, because she knows so much about things, and she could speak so eloquently that it was something that I strive to be like. And there's so many people in the industry that have helped me along the way, and if it wasn't for being a home care members, I would have never had that experience, and then never gotten the guts to jump over and join the team, for sure.
Yep. And I think you guys attend every regional and state association, right? I've gone to most of them myself, so I always see someone there.
Yeah, and I also lead the State Leaders Council for AA Home Care, so that's where all the state leaders combine and they discuss the issues within the different states. So it's really a unique thing that we're able to do. My dog just sat down underneath me. She always does that, but it was a really loud thud.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a lab and an English setter, but the lab always seems to like to work with me. But she sits right underneath the wheels of my chair, so I can't move.
Love that. Dogs are welcome for sure.
They are. That's one of the best parts about being able to work from home is having your pets.
Right.
100%.
Or toddlers in my case are always jumping on my lap and trying to get on my cameras and stuff.
Yes,
And I'm like,
I tried to tell everybody that's in my house to be as quiet as possible for this.
right. Awesome. Well, we appreciate that. What are there any like policies or initiatives right now that you're sort of like laser focused on that could maybe change the game for DME?
Oh my gosh, competitive bidding, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's a big one. I didn't know if there was anything else maybe, or if you want to go into
Yeah,
that.
definitely. So one thing that I'm super passionate about, and I've spoke about a little bit already, is AAHomecare hosts the Washington Legislative Conference, and we have people fly in from all across the United States to go onto the Hill and advocate for different bills and things like that. And for me, that was what got me so excited about the government affairs side of things, was that. And right now there is some legislation, HR 2005, which has to do with the 75-25 blended rate in rural areas. And so that's what, aside of obviously everything going on competitive bidding, we've been trying to get co-sponsors, and I run the grassroots accountability program with Emily Harkin from VGM. And so that's my passion project of what I do for AAHomecare is running we call it the GAP, Grassroots Accountability Program, but looking for co-sponsors for that bill. And I love every single time that something comes up that we can work with DC on, because I feel like that's the heartbeat of where all the information's coming from, and teaching them about competitive bidding and DME and what those words mean. It still drives me nuts every time when you go to DC and you say the word DME and they're like, what? Or HME, and you're like, how do you not know about this by now? And you're in healthcare policy. Like, this has to be something that is right off the tip of your tongue. And you know, unfortunately and fortunately with COVID, ventilators and oxygen became, you know, words that everybody used a little bit better. So I would say right now, the only thing other than competitive bidding that's really, really near and dear to my heart is getting as many co-sponsors as possible for HR 2005, because Congress works for you. And that's one thing that I've learned the most since I've worked for AAHomecare is you get scared to talk to them and ask them for things, but technically they're there to serve you and to hear your story. So it's a really unique perspective when it comes to things like this, and a way to show the industry support in this uncertain times of competitive bidding that we have coming at us. Is, you know, if we could just get co-sponsors on this bill, that would show us that you're supporting us, and then we can work with you through this proposed rule.
Where do you see the biggest opportunities for DME providers over the next 5 years?
I think the biggest opportunities for DME providers in the next few years would definitely be being proactive when it comes to this proposed rule. I think that submitting comments is now more important than ever. I even know that Benson's is looking to submit comments, and my company never did because I thought I didn't need to, or it wasn't important enough. So I know that a couple people over at Benson's have reached out to me about submitting comments, and I think that shows how critical this is going to be, and seeing how this shakes out is what our industry is going to look like. Because if it goes through as written, it is, as Tom always says, it's an asteroid coming for the HME industry, and we have to treat it like that, and we have to be concerned, because if we go down and drastically reduce the amount of suppliers the way that it is, we are going to lose businesses for sure.
How so for DMEs all across the country and our listeners to affect, like, logistically do these comments and find information on how to be proactive with this, should they go to their state association, come directly to you guys, both? How can they learn more?
Yeah, so AAHomecare has a resource page that we are constantly uploading information to. We hosted a webinar last week to direct people on how to submit comments and information. And we also did advocacy pieces for when you're talking to the Hill. So right now, if you're just having conversations, because I'm not sure when this will actually air, but it will probably be after the comments are due, because they're due August 29th. So I don't think this will make it out before that.
Bump it up,
But-
Alex.
yeah, push this up,
Yeah.
this up. But we have a resource page on the AA Home Care, and it's open to everybody. You don't have to be a member, but then obviously we want members to come on board and be ready, because we want to be able to disseminate information as quick as possible. So I think now more than ever, it's the most important thing. And probably you can also reach out to your state associations as well.
That's great. Well, that's going to be probably pretty useful for everyone to get involved and make sure they can make an impact here at this critical time, right? Well, I think at this point of our podcast, we usually go into sort of like a rapid fire where we ask these kind of like this or that questions. It's a little fun, nothing crazy. We can jump right into it when you're ready.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. Like I said, I have listened to a couple of your podcasts already, so I'm nervous but excited. Let's go.
All right, cool. If you were in the office, wear business attire to the beach or pajamas to the office?
Pajamas to the office. We actually
Nice.
used to do pajama days sometimes for morale purposes.
Always step on a Lego barefoot or always hit your funny bone?
Hit my funny bone. I hate stepping on Legos.
Yeah.
Only be able to use emojis when texting or only voice memos?
Oh, that's really hard because I hate to hear my own voice, but I would say let's do voice memos, because I don't know that I could say everything I need to say with emojis alone.
Then
So
you're not
you're
going to
gonna
want to
enjoy-
listen to this podcast, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
now looking forward to that at all.
It is. There's a word for that. I can't remember, but it's.
Yeah, I
I
can't
think it's-
listen either.
I don't think anyone actually likes it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's horrible.
it never sounds like you think that you
Yeah.
sound is never
Right.
how it comes out.
I'll
Definitely
send you the
doesn't.
script. I'll send you the transcript.
Yeah.
in emojis.
Right. Oh, wow. That would be interesting.
Wow, full circle. Last one. Have one song stuck in your head forever or never be able to listen to music again?
One song stuck in my head forever. I have to have music constantly,
Same here. I'm with
for
you.
sure.
Well, Stephanie, it's been a lot of fun today. If anyone wants to contact you or AA Home Care, how can they get in contact?
Yeah. So should I give my email or?
You can.
Sure,
People.
people
I think
do
people
it.
gave out their cell phone. I guess
Oh,
if they're.
jeez. Well, I
don't have
mean,
to do
it's
that.
on-
No, you don't
I'm
have to. I
Posting
think.
up my email, so if you ever email it, you get that. But my email is stephaniel@aahomecare.org. And if they would like to look into AA Home Care membership, we have the AA Home Care website, and you can click right on there and get into being a member and get involved. You know, that's the main thing that I want everybody to understand is if it wasn't for AA Home Care, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I made the jump over to working for AA Home Care because I want to save my family's company and I want to save all DME companies.
Love
And I
that.
wanted to make an impact on a national level. So I think that you have to get off the sidelines now. This is not the time to sit back and hope that everything ends up okay. And AA Home Care membership is a way to start doing that if you're not involved already. And if you are already an AA Home Care member and you're interested in our open councils, please reach out to me because I'd love to get more council members involved, and more perspective is what's going to make things change. So definitely.
Right
Awesome.
on.
I'm pumped for all of them. I think this is one of all the episodes are valuable, but I think this is very timely. So I'm excited to get this in front of our listeners and all the DMEs that we work with. I think we'll have a lot of
Definitely,
really
me
good
too.
information. Yeah, stuff
Absolutely.
that'll definitely move the needle. So we're excited.
Thanks
I
so much for
appreciate
joining
the
today,
opportunity.
Stephanie. Perfect. Well, this has been a lot of fun. And anyone who has not subscribed yet to the Claim to Fame podcast, please do so, Stephanie. Thanks so much for coming, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you guys.
Have a good one.
day.
Take care.